Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are y'all doing? All right? Still, all right. We have an amazing morning, an amazing opening speaker, an amazing closing ceremony, and in between, amazing thinking and organizing that we'll be doing together. A lot of people approached us last night to talk about how to carry on after this. And please, what's happening, we're having an amazing speaker this morning that tomorrow we'll be introducing, one of our advisory board members. But after this session, after this plenary, there's one more track session in each of the three rooms. They're rotating. Some of you may be new to that particular track, but one of the goals in that hour and a half will be to do a little bit more summarizing than we did in the prior two. And the track leads, led by Gerald and Phil, Michael Mendez, Tamara Tolz-O'Laughlin, and Asia Decoteau, and some of our Joy Fellows, Joy facilitators, will be going to a retreat room after the next session and collating everything and thinking about what some of the top line outcomes will be, outputs and outcomes should be, and then reporting that back to this session at 1 o'clock. There aren't as many breaks this morning or today as there were yesterday because we're sort of tooling our way towards a conclusion. We were starting a little late, obviously. And we'd love to see, can I just see a show of hands, how many people would like to sort of, at least in a digital form, build some community and channels after this conference? Okay, we will find a way to do that. What I found in international settings is, and we don't use it much in the U.S., is WhatsApp seems to be very good at that. It's also secure, theoretically, and things like that. So anyway, we may use that. So think about getting literate. Americans don't tend to be very literate in WhatsApp, but think about it if you can. We are, after this, there is Alexi, are you in here? I'll wait till she comes in here. We're blessed with a social media guru being lent us by Black Oak, who brought a drone and stuff. And he's like, yeah, we could do the 16-foot shot and then the 10-foot zoom in. I was like, okay, there he is. Shemi, how you doing? So when Lexi comes in, she's going to tell us what the plan is for that. We're going to take a moment right after this session to have a group thing outside. And those of you for whom it may be difficult to get outside, you can maybe not or take the elevator, but we're just going to try to go out for 10 minutes and do a little bit of a visual. We think the world could really use a crowd well photographed, moving, and being happy this weekend. So we're not just doing it to self-promote. We're doing it hopefully to send some of this great energy out in the world, and we have a very talented person here to help us with it. And then, Lexi, are you in here yet? No? Shemi, do you know what we're doing?
We're going to be
Oh, okay. Okay. So we've identified a spot, and the time is at lunch, so right after your sessions. Okay, all right, great, thanks. And then there is a plenary, one more plenary that starts at 11. Is it 11? No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong page, sorry. We have Centering Justice, which is one of a coalition of groups that are doing university and community work around the country, whose landscape will be changing some, probably, we hope not, but probably because of the federal funding changes. They will be meeting at 11:30 in this room, and we're really honored that they've chosen to kind of do an interim gathering joined with ours to think about the specific nexus of community and university work together. And then at 1 o'clock we'll have the closing plenary and a very special closing ceremony as well. So that's the schedule for the morning, and thank you for everything so far. I'm going to introduce the person who's going to introduce our plenary speaker, one of our amazing advisory board members, Tamara Tolz-O'Laughlin, who is, among other things, the head of the Environmental Grantmakers Association and the creator of many organizations and gatherings, including Climate Critical, that are meant to help us keep our sanity and joy in the long run around some of the tough issues we all face. So thank you all, and keep having a great day, I hope. And
I mean, no. So since I have the mic, I'll correct the record. I went to Vermont Law School, the other place in New England. And I love y'all more than maple syrup. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see your faces because it means we made the wake-up list, right? Job one, already done. My granddad said that if you have nothing else to be thankful for on a given day, if you made the wake-up list, you can give yourself a round of applause. There are a lot of people who, through no fault of their own, did not make that list. So we need to hold that joy in parallel with the grief that is underneath, recognizing that it's a gift to have an opportunity to be unhappy or bored or looking for something to do or a chance to plan with other folks. We are in the middle of a cold war that is getting warmer every day for your very soul. You are invited every minute that you are awake to be in conflict with other people, to find challenges and differences, to be in a state of confusion and busyness that sure does feel like you're producing something. And so I'd like to give a round of applause to Michael Galopta and Gerald Torres for putting this intervention in the middle of the storm. It takes an amazing broad or some really smart dudes to get this kind of activity on the books. It is my pleasure to introduce our keynote for this morning as a proud member of the Yale Center for Environmental Justice Advisory Board. Justin Pearson is a community organizer from Memphis, Tennessee, who has an impressive head of hair. Let's just be honest, admire people. Impressive. Because you got to have your vitamins together. It's not just like a plan and some products. You have to have vitamins. So I think it's really important for us to find the joy in everything. He has been at this for a long time for a person who looks this young. Also, vitamins, people. He is a leader in environmental and social justice, a nonprofit founder because you cannot solve problems in one silo. So often, a person who you think is talented in one area has to dabble and move around because that's how we like to solve problems to date. A founder, a community-centered visionary. Representative Justin J. Pearson is a community organizer for the State District 86 in Memphis, Tennessee. If you don't know why that matters, Google it. It's incredibly important that we don't forget the geographies where the fights are happening every day, even when they're not covered in the news, in the ways that government corruption is as common as government itself. The ways that we have to ask ourselves, why do we make it so cheap to corrupt the people we put into power? And whether or not we are resourcing them with care and relationships and infrastructure and flanking when they have to fight. It's one of the incredible reasons why it's great to have Justin here. From fighting for curriculum and books in high school to getting on the news for telling people that they are who they are. We are lucky to have Justin in the room with us. Welcome.
Now that's a great introduction. So I'm gonna do a couple things. I am going to use this opportunity to first say thank you to all of you, but also this is the first speech that I'm giving post the election. First public moment that I've had since we got the news that we got Tuesday. And so this moment together is also an essential moment for my own healing. And knowing that I was coming to this place with you holy, beautiful, wonderful, talented, extraordinarily fabulous looking, beautiful, magnanimous group of people gave me hope, gave me joy, and a spirit to press on. And when you hear a black woman introduce you like that, you can't help but be fired up to keep on going. And so we start everything in District 86 the same way. No matter how elections go, I say, who fired up? And my people, they say, we fired up. Who fired up? We fired up. Who fired up? We fired up. Who fired up? We fired up. Yeah, we fired up, y'all, because we've got to be for such a time and moment as this. We've got to be fired up because the cause that we care about, the people that we love, the communities that we fight for still need some people to stand up for righteousness, for love, for justice, for freedom, for equality. We've still got to be fired up because the flame of justice that is within us, it doesn't get destroyed by an election. It doesn't get stopped by a white supremacist, domestic terrorist, insurrectionist. The fire that is within us, it was built and it was set and it was lit by people who kept on persevering anyhow. It was lit by people who continued to believe in the promises of a nation that didn't believe in the people's dreams. We have to still be fired up because the future that we believe is worth fighting for. We've still got to be fired up for America. We've still got to be fired up for this world. We've still got to be fired up because future generations of people, 7 generations from now, are counting on us to not give in, to not give up, to not quit, to not be bowed down, to not be broken, to not be bent. So let's stay fired up for this fight. But we are in this for the long haul. We got to be fired up. Because for us, it was never about an election. It's about a calling to do something, to preserve this place that we call home. It was never about one election. It was about a future that we get to live in that's more just. It's about communities that we build that are stronger. It's about us. You and me, person standing next to you, those that we'll return to, and seeing them for the beauty that God created them in, and that they deserve to be treated as people. Period. They deserve to be treated as people with dignity, with respect, with care, with concern, with love. That's who we are. And while a lot has happened since Tuesday, what has not changed is that pursuit for human dignity. Because when we get that right, when we look into each other's faces and each other's eyes and we see that I care about you and the dreams that you have, I care about you and the future that you want to live in, I care about you. And so, yes, I'll say whichever pronouns make you more comfortable, I care about you. And so I won't make fun of you because of disabilities. I care about you. And so, yes, I want for all of your rights to be restored as a woman in this country. I care about you. When we do that, we disrupt a status quo. A status quo that has told us to separate ourselves. A status quo that has told us that if you step on somebody, you're better than them. If you talk down to people, you somehow are stronger. By reclaiming the things that we know to be true, the people we know ourselves to be, and what we believe we can be together, we disrupt the way that the world is operating in the most beautiful and angelic way, as angelic dissenters to a status quo that has told us that what is wrong is right, and what is right is wrong. And so, as old church songs say, don't get weary in well-doing, for you will reap if you faint not. And I ain't gonna preach, but I do want to tell you, don't get weary. You will reap if you faint not. It doesn't say that you'll reap every election. It doesn't even say you'll reap in the next decade. Doesn't say you'll reap in the next 20 years. But if you faint not. Let me stop. So just faint not. Keep pushing on anyhow. Let us keep fighting on anyhow. Let us keep giving the best of our effort and our service anyhow, because I am convinced that in the end, when the tallies are really totaled, that those who stood up for justice, those who stood up for righteousness, those who stood up for fairness, those who stood up for a better planet, those who stood up for the last, the lost, and the least, those who stood up for the marginalized and those who've been silenced, those who stood up for the people who have been broken down by a system of plantation economics, as Dr. Lawson called it, those who have been hurt and those who have been sacrificed on the altar of capitalistic exploitation, those who stand up for those folk, I believe they win in the end. So it's all right that we face some bumps and some bruises and some losses here and there, but the guarantee is that in the end, we will win. Let me get to these words and see if you have any questions, and then I'll sit down. In this past week, had a good conversation with my therapist. Does anyone else have a therapist? If you don't have a therapist, get you a therapist. If you need you a therapist, my therapist is accepting clients. Get you a therapist. And then expressing my disappointment with this election, I shared a thought. And indeed, I was grieving what had happened again. Though I'm in a different position, a different place, a different moment in my life, this time around, I'm still grieving what has happened. And my therapist looked at me and said, you know, Justin, that's good. It's good to have grief rather than just anxiety. Because with grief, you can do something with it. Grief requires a recognition of the reality. And you all know the stages of grief and all these things. There's a process that you have to go through when you're grieving something, whether you're grieving the loss of a grandparent, loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, loss of an election. There's a process that you know you are going to have to go through. But if we live only in sheer anxiety, you could spiral, he told me. And I said, well, that's good, because I ain't got time to spiral. That doesn't mean that we are not anxious about things. It doesn't mean that that's not an emotion that I have, a little concern about what happens to our country, to our democracy, what happens to people who I love and who I care about. When somebody's screaming about mass deportations at all costs, when billionaires are making decisions about foreign policy, it doesn't mean that we aren't anxious about things, but we have to ensure that the ways that we move, the ways that we operate, the way that we choose to be is from a sense of groundedness. In my tradition, my mama always says this, we do not grieve as a people without hope. We do not grieve as a people without joy. We do not grieve as a people without love, as a people without faith. We grieve, and we experience the hurt and the pain that comes with that, but we do not do it with the disbelief that things can, things will, things must be better by the work that we do with our hands. I do want to share that in order to get to that place of better, we cannot be crippled by the current conditions. There's still yet work for us to do. To my friend Michael and Gerald, who've helped to put this together, to everybody who ordered the food and the coffee and organized this amazing event, thank you. To my friends Katie Redford of the Equation Campaign, thank you. Caleb and I and Rashetta had an amazing conversation last night. I appreciate it and helping to inform some of the things that I'll say today. And I went to a small school that's really a cult of good people, Bowdoin, and a good friend of mine, Sam, here. He was a senior when I was a first year and is doing the work in theology and climate justice here at Yale. And I want to thank you for your presence. And to other people in the Equation Campaign family, Crystal Two Bulls, Lupita Sanchez, Christina Liano, and so many of you who have traveled near and far, I thank you for the time that you're allowing me to spend with you. And I hope that in the few words that I have and the few moments that we have together, that something that I say may be useful as you continue to journey on toward justice, the fire this time. The activist, the scholar, the genius, James Baldwin's combination of essays of a letter to his nephew and another essay about his relationship with the Christian tradition, a black God versus the white male God, and his faith and his ultimate conversion to Islam became the work, the fire, next time. It was one of the quintessential pieces of literature of race relations in the 20th century. That is still so relevant, You will realize in the 21st century, as we continue to seek answers to the questions, to the confusion, to the hurt, to the pain, and the experiences of black folk, African Americans, queer folks, women, marginalized folks who are still seeking their rightful place in this nation as equals, where institutions continuously prevent thriving from happening. Baldwin's book is truly a work of art that is so relevant that I'm going to be revisiting it soon. But it comes from this holy scripture and music that said these words: God gave Noah the rainbow sign, no more water, the fire next time. I have just 3 points and then I'll be done. The fire this time. 1, we are dealing with the reality and challenge of destruction and construction. We've been dealing with destruction and construction for centuries as a nation, for 248 years at least, 405 years since 1619 when the first enslaved African Americans were brought to these shores, and literally many years before that for our native communities who were dealing with the consequences of the isolation and the genocidal actions of a nation seeking to be born on land that had already had people for thousands of years. We deal with destruction and construction when we deal with the reality of social and physical death of black and brown communities with mass incarceration, gun violence, poverty, redlining, and polluting. And then you have constructing the identity, declaring that I still am somebody. Even amidst these narratives that say otherwise, you have the destruction and the construction as a part of the American fabric. The poor white has had their reality constructed by forces of oppression much larger and much bigger and much more institutionalized than they have ever thought or have been taught. And so instead, they constructed an other who was black, who was a woman, who was an immigrant as the reason for the destruction of their livelihoods, despite the truths of capitalistic greed exploiting the land, closing of the hospitals by corporations, and eliminating the job prospects outside of a Walmart due to the plantation economy, as Reverend Lawson calls it. We have to be honest that there's this period of American existence of construction and destruction. And today, my friends, we find ourselves with this strange symbiosis. Amidst the destruction, we construct. Amidst the destruction, we still construct joy. Conferences like this, opportunities to gather, to smile, to fight, to build. Amidst destruction, we construct to build more strong and durable and powerful communities and people who can survive these times. Although I cannot stand before you today with many answers, and there are indeed people way smarter than me, with more letters behind their names, more years of experience as well, who might be able to provide more salves to the pain of our experience now, and all of them are writing New York Times opinion pieces, if you want to read those. I am only just really starting the process of processing and of planning, but today I share with you what I believe to be true and hope that these truths might give us strength to keep going. One is the recognition that in our lives we will continue to see the construction and destruction. And 2, that we who believe in freedom must realize the reality that some things did not change, although the election went a certain way. The importance of our movement for justice rooted in love that seeks to elevate the voices of the people who've been pushed to the periphery and sidelined in the conversation about America's freedom did not change. The need for organizers, advocates, activists, elected officials, and people of goodwill to stand up to the industries that have been seeking and will continue to seek to pollute communities that have historically faced petrochemical plants, fracked gas plants like what the Tennessee Valley Authority is proposing in my district, as well as fake technology solutions like carbon capture facilities and new AI supercomputers like I'm seeing in my district from Elon Musk prove that we are still needed now. That has not changed. What didn't change is the fact that black women are still 3 times more likely to die during childbirth due to a lot of the toxic air quality and toxic water like lead in our communities. That didn't change. The fact that a black child with asthma is 10 times more likely to die from an asthma attack than a white child in America, that did not change. The fact that the majority of black and brown people live within 5 miles of toxic waste and industry, that did not change. The fact that the systems we are fighting under this administration will be the same ones that we are fighting under the next one, that did not change. What also did not change is the philosophical realities that we must hold true to. That indeed Carlyle is right, as King said, for if there be a faith from of old, it is this, as we often repeat, that no lie can live forever. The very truth has to change its vesture from time to time and be born again, but all lies have sentence of death written down against them. Audre Lorde is right. We must remember anger used does not destroy. Hatred does. James Lowell is right. Harder yet may be the fight right, may often yield to might. Wickedness a while may reign. Satan's cause may seem to gain. Yet there's a God that rules above with hand of power and heart of love. If I'm fight, God will fight my battle. I'll have peace someday. We have to remember the philosophical truths. The freedom fighters who were beaten, brutalized, walking across the Selma Bridge, dealing with the explosion of the 16th Baptist Church that killed 4 little children, those who sat at the casket of Emmett Till and the casket of Medgar Evers, still sang over my head. I hear freedom in the air. Over my head, I see glory in the air. There must be a God somewhere. We've got to remember that our God hands, our God feet, our God heart, our God minds are still needed in this moment. Lastly, as I prepare to end this, third point, maybe the most important, we are still here. And I loved what you said. Your granddaddy would say, we made the wake-up list. If I was in church, I'd go head on, but I'm not. But we are still here. We're still here, which means that we have the capacity, the opportunity, the obligation to do something. 1 million people were lost due to the COVID-19 mismanagement, including some of my own family, my best friend's daddy. But we are still here. We've lost leaders and we've lost legends to the struggle due to cancer, like my own 2 grandmothers in a community that has 4 times the national cancer risk because of 17 toxic release inventory facilities that surround our neighborhood. But we are still here. We see daily where the epidemic of gun violence takes away people we love, including my mentor, my cousin, my classmate, but we are still here. And this is good news. Somebody say good news. We are still here. We're going to church. I can't help it. When I say we are, you say still here. We are? Still here. We are? Still here. We are? We're still here to face the injustices head on, though we must rest and not get weary in our well-doing. We are still here despite the sexism, despite the racism, despite the homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, and misogynoir. We are still here despite the pollution and the polluters and the paid-off politicians. We are still here despite all of the genocidal beginnings of this nation that tried to destroy our country, despite the social and physical and violent deaths that this nation has inflicted upon the bodies and the souls of the African diaspora. We are still here because the wells of democracy that have been dug so deep by the ancestors on cotton fields and tobacco plantations still pushes us on. We are still here because we have to fight for the unfulfilled promise of America, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we are because the joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep going. We are
We are